We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Wednesday, August 12th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Today's date is
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. And also, Moonji's with us today.
Good morning.
Good to have you, and both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we're at the middle of the work week, which means many of us are probably looking for ways to make life a little easier or get few things done faster. And as we all know, generative AI is becoming an even bigger part of our daily routines. So people are finding all sorts of ways to put AI to work, like writing emails, brainstorming ideas, planning trips, studying, or even deciding what to eat. So before we get into the bigger conversation about how AI is changing and impacting our lives, let's start with something simple. So Kyun, starting with you, when do you typically use generative AI and what do you use it for usually?
I mostly use it for work when I need to translate English to Korean, Korean to English, and also to check for extra information on the latest news so that I can get a whole list, comprehensive research analysis with citation of sources for me to actually cross-check. So it becomes super convenient and saves me time as well. Now, outside of work, I would utilize generative AI to ask simple questions that many people in their mid-30s might actually ask commonly. So, for example, if I have to take a loan out, if I need to take a loan, by asking just one simple question, it will give me a full list of all the possible loans that I can take out with all the interest rates and
so it's actually not that simple.
Exactly, it's not that simple because I actually went to the bank last week and then it was very complicated. And I really couldn't ask the worker like all these different nitty-gritty questions because like she seemed a little stressed out. Time's running out and people are waiting behind me. I'm just like, okay, and I just had to leave like right away. And then I would go back to my generative AI and ask all the questions that I couldn't ask. And that's where I find a lot of things really convenient with generative AI, like things that we used to actually spend time by calling in or searching up one by one. Generative AI pretty much does everything for you and it gives you a whole simple summary of all these things in just a few seconds. So that's how I utilize generative AI in my everyday life.
I think that's like the biggest thing because you can access so much knowledge and information in such a short amount of time. It's very helpful. So what about you, Moonju?
I mean, I'm pretty much the same, just the fact that I'm not in the mid-30s right now, so I don't know if that's the same part. But, I don't know about Ki-hyun or Soo-jin, but I use multiple AIs to do a single work. For example, when I have to search for the news or research something, I use certain type of AI. And then when I have to create a document or a short, brief document about it, then I use the other AI to do the same thing. So that's kind of how I utilize AI. And when I write scripts, especially when I need some emotional touch, I use AI, and they're pretty good at it actually. I drop tears sometimes.
Oh, okay.
But they're actually pretty good at it, so if you really need it, you can just use it. But personally, I don't fully rely on AIs because you have to always cross-check the information that they give you. So I think it is important for you to double-check everything that generative AI gives you. But I know some people use AI to simply chat and consult their concerns, but I don't think I use as much as others do for this purpose.
I think that shows how much has evolved using AI because now people have started to recognize which AI is good for which purpose.
Yeah, exactly. I also look for which AI should I use for this purpose, right?
Exactly.
And there are so many people talking about different AIs, so I had to compare everything. But yeah, there are so many.
Right. So today we're going to explore just how far our emotional connection with AI can really go and whether AI could eventually become more than just a helpful tool in our lives. So as generative AI becomes more common, the way we use it is also changing. So AI has evolved from a productivity tool into something people also turn to for emotional support. So as generative AI becomes more common, how are people using it in different ways?
To provide an answer to your question, a survey conducted by Harvard Business Review shows how much generative AI has evolved in recent years and become closely attached to human users. So if you take a look at the screen, according to the report titled How People Use Generative AI, Therapy and Emotional Companionship, became the #1 use in 2025 at 31%. Now, it accounted for just 17% of usage in 2024, but that figure almost doubled in just 1 year, making emotional support one of the biggest drivers of generative AI use. Now, what this tells us is that people are no longer just turning to AI just for information and research. They're actually increasingly turning to it for comfort, reassurance, and emotional support that humans would usually give. So we're seeing a big shift in people using AI for these kind of purposes, more emotional, personal things.
Right, I'm sure everyone listening can also relate how AI is no longer just something we turn to when we need a question answered. More and more people are turning to it when they need someone or something to listen to and sometimes to validate them. And that raises a bigger question. So if we can talk to AI, share our worries, and even find comfort in those conversations, could it be possible to consider AI an actual friend? So our panelists have their OX panels ready, so let's find out where they stand on this. So the question is, can AI really become our friend, yes or no? So Hyun, you were saying
Yeah.
yes?
Definitely.
Okay, so that's why.
I mean, these days people talk to AI about their personal concerns, but they also use it for much lighter everyday conversations like asking, what should I have for lunch? Now, I have options A, B, and C. Choose one for me, in this particular day. I feel like this on my emotions. So it's become very personalized, just talking about, what I should have for lunch. And in many ways, those are exactly the kind of interactions we have with friends. So I think AI is already beginning to play that role in people's lives. So I do believe it can become a genuine form of companionship in a light way, not too deep but like too personal. But I'm talking about like, hey, what should I have for lunch? Should I eat this or that? Where should I go in my free time? Things like that.
But I guess that also depends on how you define friendship.
That's right as well. Yeah.
So what about you, Moonjun?
I mean, it's no for me. It's the same thing. I think you just mentioned. I think we have to think about how are you going to define a friendship. Personally, I think. Along with the emotional support, I think we should have some physical support with the friends. For example, when you go watch a movie, like myself individually, I don't go movie by myself, so I need a friend to go with. But AI can't do it, so I think at least for me, I don't think AI could be a genuinely friend. Also, it kind of lacks emotions. AI doesn't feel emotions, just simply educate it, learn to pretend as if they have emotions. So emotional connection or empathy that we share with AI isn't real for me, I think. Friends provide us with many things, and emotional support is arguably the most support that they could give us in real life. So I think in those kind of perspective, AI cannot be our true friends, at least up until now.
But we also need to consider that we grew up in the digital era, right? And we were just, even kids these days, they're born with smartphones in their hands. So they're so used to being attached to smartphones and of course AI. So if you go to like subways, buses, 99% of the people are
glued to their phones.
There is zero human contact interaction. So people are so kind of accustomed to just being on their phones, and hence AI. So I think this is becoming more natural, what they ask AI, like all these personal things that they would actually ask people because, and we had Corona as well, and this contact, zero non-contact things as well. So all these things were kind of a build up to how people are behaving right now. So I'm actually for having AI friends. But anyway, let's move on to the next question.
All right. So on one hand, AI doesn't actually experience emotion, so the connection may seem fundamentally different from a human friendship. But on the other hand, if someone feels heard, understood, and supported through those conversations, the emotional experience can still feel very real. So maybe the question isn't whether AI can feel like a friend, but whether we need our friends to be human in the first place. So we want to see where our viewers stood on that question. So we asked on the IDA News YouTube channel, can generative AI become your friend? And the results showed a clear majority. So 23% said yes, they believe AI can become a friend, while 77% said no. So while many people are comfortable using AI as a helpful assistant, most of our viewers still draw the distinction between a useful tool and a genuine friend. That said, with AI becoming more conversational and emotionally responsive, it'll be interesting to see whether those views begin to shift over time. And the idea of AI becoming a friend may not be as futuristic as it sounds. In fact, once deemed like science fiction, it's already becoming an actual reality. So how has AI become more than just a tool for some people, Moonju?
Yeah, it is definitely becoming more than just a tool for everyone, I think, in real life these days. I don't know if you guys all remember, there's a film called Her, released in 2013. It's an American science fiction romantic drama film about a man who develops a romantic relationship with a personified AI with a female voice. Reflecting on that same storyline now in 2026, I kind of doubted whether it is really a science fiction. Could you really call it a science fiction? Because it has been a reality these days, right? In South Korea, reality shows exploring romance with AI have already debuted, and growing number of people are developing genuine romantic relationship with AIs. Similarly, in Japan and the United States, cases continue to emerge where individuals form deep emotional connections with AI. Chatbots even going as far as holding virtual weddings, which is very surprising. Meanwhile, in China, the government recently stepped in to regulate AI due to a surge in emotional dependency. This kind of shows how more and more people are kind of developing deeper relationship with AI, I think. And so as a result, many users experience a profound sense of loss akin to a forced breakup with a real life partner. So this could be another problem these days, I think, yeah.
So AI can provide companionship, emotional support, even a sense of intimacy. Perhaps the idea of a romantic partner isn't so far-fetched after all. So we talked about friendships, but now we're moving on to whether it's possible to have a romantic relationship. And once again, our panelists will use their OX paddles. So the question is it possible for people to have a romantic relationship with AI? Yes or no? So what are your answers for this?
It's a tough one, but I think it is possible, especially if the person genuinely feels that AI is fulfilling the role of a romantic partner. Now, this will obviously differ person to person, but after all, what we really look for in a partner is someone who actually gives us emotional comfort. Now, someone we can share the joys and struggles of life with. So if that someone feels that AI can actually provide that kind of emotional connection and companionship, then I think it's possible for some to see AI as a romantic partner as well.
So for you, friendship is possible, and also a romantic relationship, in your opinion?
If it builds from the friendship, I think it can move on to the emotional stage.
That is true. That makes sense. So what are your thoughts on this?
I think I have to develop in the same way. If you cannot really develop a friendship with the AI, I don't think AI could really be a romantic partner. Same here. Emotional connection is the part that we have to really think about it, but also there are another part that we have to think about. Romantic relationship. There is also physical part. You really like hold hands with your partner, or like you look at their eyes and chat with them. But you cannot do this with the AI. So I'm kind of skeptical about whether you could really call it a romantic relationship if you really cannot do these kind of things. So just similarly, possessing its own independent identity rather than having their own identity for the AI is more of a passive, one-sided entity that unconditionally caters to us. And I don't think it is a really healthy relationship for receiving unlike conditional support sometimes, not every time. So I think it's kind of hard for me to think about that AI kind of being my romantic partner.
So I guess where you kind of goes with what you said earlier about for you, it's important for you to actually do things with your partner.
Do something with my partner, do something with my friends, but AI could only offer me, why don't you do this or that, and emotional support. But I think physical part is pretty important, at least for me, and that's why I don't think it could be a real friend or a real romantic partner.
Fair enough.
Maybe humanoids can become.
What are your thoughts on humanoids?
Right?
Humanoids, yeah.
So we have two very different perspectives here. So one focuses on what the relationship provides for the person: comfort, companionship, and connection. The other focuses on what's missing from the other side: genuine emotion, free will, and also mutuality. And that's what makes this debate so complicated. Can a relationship be considered real if only one side is actually feeling it? So we wanted to hear directly from our viewers on this as well. So we ran a poll asking, can you have a romantic relationship with generative AI. And here's what the results showed. And the results were quite one-sided. So just 14% of respondents said yes, while overwhelming 86% said no. So while AI may be becoming part of our emotional lives, it seems most of our viewers still draw a clear line when it comes to romance. But as AI continues to evolve and become more human-like, Hyunyi earlier mentioned humanoids, maybe it will be interesting to see whether public opinion changes in the future. And as AI becomes more deeply involved in people's emotional lives, like we talked about, it's also beginning to challenge our ideas of trust, loyalty, and relationships. So could AI relationships start causing problems in real relationships?
I think it can, because recently in Korea, an online post went viral after a woman said that her husband had been talking to generative AI.
Okay, like a real life her.
Yeah, real life her, as if it were like a real romantic partner. Now, according to the post, he even had given the AI a special nickname and told it things like, I like you more than my wife, and I wish I could give you a physical form so we could spend the rest of our lives together. Now, that sounds a little too extreme, but it really actually did happen. But under the current Korean law, emotional interactions with AI alone would be difficult to recognize as marital infidelity. But legal experts do say that if someone becomes too very emotionally invested in AI, that it seriously damages and breaks the marriage, that could potentially become grounds for divorce.
So it sounds like something out of a movie, but these situations are actually becoming increasingly real. If someone is emotionally investing in an AI model instead of their partner, the issue changes from the AI being real to whether the emotional connection is. And that naturally leads to another difficult question. Where do we draw a line between harmless interaction and actual emotional infidelity? So that brings us to the last and what may be the most controversial question of today's discussion. And our panelists will once again bring out their OX paddles one last time for this. So, can an AI relationship be considered cheating, yes or no? So, Kyun, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, if someone is secretly expressing love to an AI and becoming emotionally dependent on it without their partner knowing, I think it could be considered a form of emotional cheating. In fact, there have recently been reports in the US of more couples actually adding clauses to their prenuptial agreements that essentially say, if you cheat with a chatbot, we divorce. That suggests people are already starting to see emotional relationships with AI as a form of infidelity, even if there's no human involved.
Yeah, I feel like it would be quite upsetting if I found out my partner was telling all these stuff to this chatbot and I didn't know anything about that.
What if your partner said, it's because you don't really listen to me. It's hard to have a conversation with you because you become maybe too emotional. Whereas the chatbot is very neutral, gives me the answers that I actually want to hear, and I feel comfort from that. That's a different issue, right?
I mean, I feel like that's a fair comeback. I have nothing to say to that, which makes it worse. I feel
maybe that gives the other person a reason to actually try generative AI on their own to actually express their concerns as well within the relationship. If that helps, I think we can use it as a tool. But then once you start actually building an emotional kind of attachment to something intangible you can't see, like Munju said, like not a physical being, then I think it gets a little too tricky and it could actually lead to divorce as well.
And because it's not like a physical form, like Munju said, but it still doesn't feel great. It's such a weird thing. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, it's a very tough question. I almost got persuaded by you, but I think still my opinion is a no. It's a really tough one. Putting myself or ourselves in the shoe of as a boyfriend or girlfriend, I would definitely be upset about it. I mean, why would someone even do something like just chatting with the AI or something if you really have me, right? But here I think we have to be a little more logical. First of all, we have to define to what degree or to what extreme are we going to define the cheating. I think if you really apply it to real life, if you really chat with someone if you're a boyfriend, to other girls, if you're a girlfriend to other boys, that can't be cheating, right? You're just getting in contact with other people, right? So that part is one. And while the content of the conversation would really matter, AI is a human and lacks a physical presence again here. So for any behavior to be considered as cheating, I think a true emotional connection must precede it, which is very hard when you talk with AI, to my perspective at least. So I think considering it as a cheating is impossible, at least in this case. Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. So once again, the debate comes down to what we really believe cheating is. So is it impossible if another human being is involved, or is emotional secrecy and intimacy enough regardless of who or what is on the other side of the conversation? So maybe this discussion is less about artificial intelligence and more about how we define loyalty, trust, and emotional commitment in a relationship. So we wanted to hear what our viewers thought on this as well. So we asked, if your spouse has romantic conversations with AI, is it considered cheating? And the results were actually almost evenly split. 47% said yes, they would consider it cheating, while 53% said no. So whether we see AI as a tool, a companion, or something in between, it's already changing the way we interact with technology and perhaps even with each other. As AI becomes more capable of responding to our emotional needs, the challenge will be finding the right balance between embracing its benefits and avoiding unhealthy dependence. And one thing is certain, the conversation about AI and human relationships is only just beginning. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. Big thanks to Ki-hoon.
I had so much fun today.
And also Moonju.
Thanks for having me today.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully your heart stays in the right hands, not just the right algorithm. We are News Generation.